Michael Hawkins has committed to the Oklahoma Sooners, guys. Remember when everybody told us that Oklahoma football was dead, that we weren't going to get top tier quarterbacks anymore, but yet the future at the quarterback room for the Oklahoma Sooners looks bright. You, in 2023, land a 5-star in Jackson Arnold, and then in 2025, you get a 4-star in Kevin Sperry, who, listen, many insiders, many analysts, they will tell you he's going to be a 5-star. And then in 2024, Oklahoma is not only in the running for just one quarterback, but 2 quarterbacks. And they just landed one of them. So all of the people that tried to tell you Oklahoma football was going away, they weren't going to be much, I don't hear them anymore. I don't hear the haters. But before we talk about the commitment of Michael Hawkins today, go ahead, jump down in the comments below. Let me know what you all are thinking. Are you excited about the future of the Oklahoma quarterback room? Additionally, if you're not an Oklahoma fan, I want to know, do you guys think Oklahoma is QB1? So today, it is April 8th, the day before Easter, and Michael Hawkins commits to the University of Oklahoma. And listen, this couldn't have came at a better time, because if you're the Oklahoma Sooners, you really need to start gaining some momentum on the recruiting trail for 2024. Not because you've only got now 2 commits, and at the time you only had 1, but because you're starting to see some of your recruits that you've started to go after start to dwindle away. Andrew Sprague, who is currently committed to Michigan, right after a certain quarterback, Jaden Davis, committed to Michigan. Then you have James Peoples, your running back that a lot of people wanted, including myself, a top, I think, 70 player, if I remember correctly. He commits to the Ohio State. And if you're the Oklahoma Sooners, you've had 5 stars on campus. You've had top 100 players on campus. And it's time for you to start getting a lot of these guys to reel in for the Sooners. It's time. And really, when you look at it, a quarterback is the foundation of a class. It really is the foundation of a class. And if you don't have a quarterback to help stabilize it and to be able to go out there and help you recruit, then you'll never gain that early momentum, kind of like what Michigan and the Ohio State Buckeyes have, which, by the way, even if you're an Oklahoma fan, you've got to be curious of that Michigan-Ohio State deal that's going on there with the recruiting, because they are at each other's throats, and they have a quarterback now at Michigan that has publicly came out and said that he is willing to go after the Ohio State wide receivers. But we'll talk about that at a later date, even though I think that is an extremely fun topic to even think about. But Michael Hawkins, a 4-star, I'd say, in the composite rankings of 4-star. He is not a consensus 4-star across all of the boards. 247 on 3. They have him as 3 stars, and then ESPN and Rivals have him as a 4-star. So that's kind of how he gets that 247 composite ranking. But the 6'2", 195-pound cat out of Frisco Emerson, Texas, a lot of you guys will remember him in his time in Allen, Texas. Well, we're not going to dive into that whole situation and how he ended up at Frisco Emerson. But one thing that we need to note is Michael Hawkins is a baller. So for those of you who, for some reason, just aren't bought into the idea of Oklahoma having a stash of quarterbacks in this room, I don't know what to tell you. Because when I look at Michael Hawkins' stats as a quarterback in his 2 years starting at Allen, Texas, he had 309 completions out of 513 attempts, 4,840 yards, a 60% completion percentage, 15.7 yard average, 193.6 yards a game, 41 touchdowns. Guys, I mean, do you see it here yet? Michael Hawkins is a dude, but he can also use his feet, because in 2 years, with 175 carries, he had 1,094 yards, 11 touchdowns, and he had 3 runs of 100 or more yards. So again, like we're seeing with the staff all over this team, they are getting guys that are extremely athletic, and especially at the quarterback position, you've almost got to get a dual threat quarterback at this point, but a guy that can also sit in the pocket and pass the ball to even be successful. So the Oklahoma Sooners, they get a quarterback commit for 2024, and I'm excited because This is a battle that we have been watching come down between Arkansas and Oklahoma for the first half of it. And then after Kendall Briles took the job at TCU, well, it shifted tides to be an OU TCU battle, which I don't know about y'all, but as an Oklahoma fan, not really feeling the TCU Horned Frogs anymore. They're kind of on my you know what list. So I want to hear from you guys about that as well, because last year it seemed like they were really trying to go after everybody's quarterbacks. But yeah, Oklahoma is quarterback one. Back to the idea that Oklahoma is bright at the quarterback position, because you had Kevin Sperry, a 2025 quarterback, commit before you even had 2024 guy. So if you look at the 2023 season, which most, I'm sure, Sooner fans at this point, they want to forget it, it was a rough season. And it was rough because, well, I mean, when was the last time Oklahoma had a losing season like that? What was it, like 1998? Now they have depth. Now they have the opportunity to be able to, well, if Jackson Arnold gets hurt, which we honestly, I mean, hope that doesn't happen, but if Jackson Arnold gets hurt, now you have the opportunity to put some other guys in there. And you have an opportunity to still win your games at a high level. And I think that's the important thing to note here. Oklahoma, there's still a destination for top quarterbacks in the country. And you might say, well, Michael Hawkins is not a top quarterback in the country. Well, I would beg to differ that his offer list says differently. Because even though he only had 17 offers, he had offers not only from Oklahoma and TCU and Arkansas, but he had offers from Nebraska, Michigan, Alabama, right? He had offers from other elite schools across the country. And that's why I'm saying, if you get a guy that has an Alabama on his offer sheet, has a Michigan on his offer sheet, and he decides to come play at your school, you're still elite. You can still recruit that position at an elite level. And I think that's what is important for the Oklahoma Sooner fans to note. So we got Jags Sooner in the chat asking, once you land your elite quarterback, others will start flooding in. Yes, that's 100% true, especially on the offensive side of the ball, right? You still have to have a guy on the defensive side of the ball to really go in there and be a leader, kind of like what we saw last year. So you had Jackson Arnold kind of being that primary player recruiter. He was also out there heavily recruiting on the offensive side of the ball. But you had a guy like Derek LeBlanc, a defensive lineman who was highly coveted, wanted by the Florida State or the Florida Gators and then Penn State, right? He was out there recruiting guys on the defensive side of the ball. So, yeah, I mean, other elite recruits will start to flood in once you have that quarterback to help you stabilize the class. But you also need to get a guy on the defensive side of the ball that's going to be able to help you recruit. And hopefully Newcomb is going to be able to help do that until maybe a guy like Winery or a David Stone get here. Because I promise you, when you land a guy like David Stone or Williams Winery, or shoot, even both of them, heads are going to start turning and asking, what is Oklahoma doing? What's going on over there? And the curiosity, that's what's going to get these guys here. Hence, Edric Houston. Oklahoma was never going to get Edric Houston on a visit. I want you guys to know that. Oklahoma was not in the running from him at the beginning. A certain guy by the name of KJ Bolden, a top 5 player in the country, a top safety in the country, wanted by everybody, he was the one that convinced Edric Houston to take the visit to the University of Oklahoma. And ultimately, Edric Houston ended up loving the visit. So that's my deal. When you start getting the 5-star guys, the heads will turn and it kind of talks for itself. And then from there, it's them to kind of sell those guys on why they should come. So, Jags, you come back here and you ask, who is the next commitment on offense and on defense? So, I believe the Oklahoma Sooners are actually going to get an offensive lineman quicker than everybody thinks. And I think it's probably going to be down between Casey Poe and Bennett Warren. I think both of those are options. Now, we had an interview with Bennett, and it's about to come out. I'd probably say Monday. I'm not going to release it on Easter just because I know everybody's going to be with their families. Not a good day to release a video. But Bennett talked about how he wants to have his recruitment wrapped up before the start of the senior season. So I don't know if that means he's going to be making a decision here in like the next couple of weeks, or what that looks like. But Casey Poe, that's the one that I would really watch for on the Oklahoma Sooners to kind of go ahead and start locking down, or even Grant Bricks. Now, I haven't talked to Grant Bricks, so I don't really know a whole lot about that recruitment, where that one stands. But Grant Bricks, I think, is another option that the Oklahoma Sooners definitely want to take, especially now that you have lost Andrew Sprague to Michigan. And, Andrew Sprague was right in your backyard in Kansas City, which is a spot that the Oklahoma Sooner staff really wants to be able to go out there and recruit well. So on the defensive side of the ball, I really think it's probably going to either be an Eli Bowen. It could be a David Stone, but I still think David Stone drags out his commitment to the summer. But who really knows at this point? All I know is David Stone's really been flirting with the Michigan State fan base, and he has been flirting with the Oklahoma Sooners fan base. So I don't know if he's really coming down to figuring out where he wants to go at this point. I know somebody jumped in the comments the other day and said he's not going to either of those places. He's only going to go to Miami. And I was like, you're an idiot. David Stone's not going to Miami. It's not going to come down to the NIL money for David Stone, because something that we talked about on the show before is a lot of people believe, because NIL is a thing now, that NIL is going to play a factor in everybody's recruitment. And that's just simply not true. A guy like David Stone, he's going to get an NIL deal wherever he goes. And he knows that. Same thing for a guy like Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold came out and publicly said it. He knew whether he went to Notre Dame, whether he went to Oklahoma or wherever, that he was going to get an NIL deal, that the NIL deals were going to come. And it's the same thing for these 5 stars. They get it. They understand it. They know the process. For them, it's really about going out there and building your brand. So commitment on the defensive side of the ball, I would like to say it would be Eli Bowen, but we'll have to see on that one. I would like to see David Stone go ahead and wrap up that commitment so we can stop kind of wondering about it. David Stone is really good friends with Michael Hawkins. Okay, so let's actually talk about this. Good friends with Michael Hawkins Jr. Outside of the David Stone situation. Does anybody watching right now, I want to see, can anybody put in the chat, who else is Michael Hawkins friend with? There's 2 people I'm looking for. And I feel like one of them should be pretty easy. Anybody? Can anybody put it in the chat? Anybody put it in the chat? Well, I'll give you the obvious one. And we'll see if anybody puts the non-obvious one in the chat. 5-star tight end in 2025, Devon Mitchell. So I say 2025 because, yes, he has talked about how he wants to reclassify, but he hasn't reclassified yet. So I still have to count him as a 5-star in 2025. And then also, I don't know if that 5-star is going to translate to him being a 5-star in 2024. We kind of saw that with Desmond Ricks. It didn't transfer over. So we'll just have to kind of keep an eye on that one. If Devon Mitchell ends up reclassifying officially to 2024, yes, yeah, I think he'll 100% be a Sooner. He's definitely not going to USC like some people think. But the one, and I still don't see it in, Jags, yes. Malik Hawkins is a good guess. Malik's his brother in 2025. I don't think that will, that's not the answer I'm looking for. I'm looking for the answer of Zina Yumioa Zulu, who is the 4-star edge rusher, a top 100 talent in this class, who was at Allen, Texas. Now, this one's a little finicky, which I have talked to some other people that kind of know the situation with Michael Hawkins and things like that. And they don't think that Zina Yumioa Zulu will come to the University of Oklahoma. I am on the other on the other side of this, though. I think, okay, if you land Michael Hawkins, you're going to position yourself to be in a good spot with his buddies, be in a good spot with his teammates. Well, Zina is one of those guys. And although his brother's at Texas on the offensive line, I don't think his brother's really going to have as great of a shot to start in Texas as he would at the University of Oklahoma. And that's just because, well, Texas has all of those offensive linemen that were 5-stars in that class. And I think as of right now, unless there's any major injuries, which, again, even on our worst rivals, we do not hope that. But I think he would have a better chance of starting at the University of Oklahoma than at Texas. So Zina Yumioa Zulu, I would keep an eye on that one. I would see if Oklahoma starts to feel good about that position, starts to get a little warm there. Now, a lot of you guys here, Jags, you're talking about Malik Hawkins. That's his brother. Remember, Michael Hawkins' dad, Mike Hawkins, he specifically told teams, do not offer my son because you want Michael. For Malik's sake, don't do that. So I don't know if Malik is specifically wanting to play with his brother. I don't know, if he wants to follow in his dad and now in his brother's footsteps and come to the University of Oklahoma. And especially for Malik playing the same position as his dad, I think there would be some expectations there. Maybe he doesn't want to do that. So we'll have to see where Oklahoma starts to feel about that. Again, it's 2025 and those recruitments are so far away. It's kind of hard to take a guess. But yes, Oklahoma probably is going to be in a good position for Malik Hawkins. Peyton Pierce, my gosh, guys, I want Oklahoma to land this guy so bad because if you guys watched my video about the Oklahoma linebackers, which I know some of you guys didn't really agree with me on the Kobe McKinsley potentially taking the spot of Danny Stutzman this season if Danny starts to struggle, which we can talk about that at a later date for another stream. But because we're going to keep this one short today. But Peyton Pierce and Sammy Brown, if you land both of those guys in this class, my goodness, this staff, well, one, yes, this staff should just be praised by all Oklahoma people. But the linebacker position will be just as bright as maybe even the quarterback position for the University of Oklahoma. So it looks like Jay with Unfair Sports is hopping on. Jay, how are you doing? What's going on? How are you feeling?
What's going on, man? My bad for the delay. Had some other stuff going down, but hey, what's up? Good news for the day, right?
Hey, you know what? I feel good about the news for the day. We just came out talking about Michael Hawkins committing, and I posed the question: is Oklahoma still QB1? I know we had all those people talk about when Lincoln Riley left, Oklahoma's not going to be the team they were. They're going to fall off the cliff. I don't hear those haters anymore.
Yeah, no. People are getting quiet when it comes to that, especially after we landed Jackson Arnold and he moved into 5-star plus status at the end of the season, end of the cycle, I guess you could say. At that point, is people got real quiet on that front, right? They recognize that Oklahoma knows exactly what the heck they're doing. We're still able to get elite talent. And all we're going to do is continue to be one of the blue bloods of the country. And so the beauty of having this not only legacy, but also a player that, and I was reading Parker Thune's article on it, he's coming to Oklahoma doing the opposite of what his dad did. His dad was a corner when he was here, and he's coming here as a quarterback, and he plans on making his own path while at the same time following, his father's footsteps from going to the same school. So I'm stoked that we was able to land him. I was a little nervous about TCU having a chance. Kendall Browse does a really good job of recruiting, and he's a really good offensive coordinator. So overall, Boomer Sooner, we landed our guy, and I can definitely see us, continue the trend of being elite at the quarterback position.
Yes, and so I was talking about the potential guys now that you have a quarterback, because, well, the quarterback helps stabilize the class, helps stabilize the recruiting class, because that's your primary player recruiter, because it's important to note that during a dead period, when coaches can't talk to recruits, who's the guy that can? Your quarterback. That's usually the guy that's taking that initiative to help build it. I was talking about guys that could potentially follow Michael Hawkins. And I said the easy answer is Devon Mitchell if the reclassification officially hits. But even if it doesn't hit for 2024, I still think he can land in the class in 2025. But I mentioned Zina Yumi Oazulu. And like I was telling you the other day, I was talking to somebody else who, they kind of know these situations. He said he wouldn't feel too confident about it. But Zina is a guy, he's friends with Michael Hawkins. And, his brother, I get it, plays at Texas. But, like I told you the other day, I don't think he has a better chance of seeing the field at Texas than he would Oklahoma, just because that Texas offensive line, with all the 5 stars that they had, I mean, unless somebody gets hurt, I just don't think the opportunity for him will be there. And so I think a guy like Zina, who has 30 offers and is being recruited by some of the most elite teams in the country, a top 100 player, I think could be a guy that could follow Michael Hawkins to the University of Oklahoma. So, what are your thoughts here? Who do you think could follow Michael Hawkins, and do you think Zena could be one of those guys?
So, like you mentioned, the easy one is Devon Mitchell. That's kind of I think that's a given, and I can expect that to come down the line within. I guess as once he reclassifies, I sense that the commitment comes down the line. I don't see him committing before reclassifying, but I could easily be wrong. As far as other players, I know that Michael had made mention of players that he's going to be recruiting that he would like to have. He mentioned David Stone. So for everybody that's wondering about Stoney, Hawkins has been trying to recruit him to come here as well with them, and he wants him to come. I think the first one, though, honestly, if anybody is going to commit first, I think it's going to be Caden Durham. I think it's going to be him because the Duncanville running back, he's been popping up a lot lately. I've been following him on Twitter, and he does a lot of retweeting of Oklahoma's content, focused content around Oklahoma. We gave him a crystal ball, and if I'm correct, he retweeted that, and so I can totally see him as the track player being the first one to go ahead and commit after Hawkins. And then for me, what I want to see is to start seeing these defensive players come down the line. But the other influence from Hawkins I can see is Bryant Westco. We know Westco has been getting a lot of crystal balls over the last 2 months. I think since January, he's gotten at least one.
And he's a 5-star now.
Or prediction. Yeah. He's gotten at least a prediction or a future cast or a crystal ball since January, and I can totally see him following Hawkins. But that's that was basically the three that he made mention. Oh yeah, Max Anderson was the fourth person that Hawkins mentioned that he is heavily recruiting, and so if he's recruiting them, I think there's a good chance we're going to land him now that he is committed and he's all in Oklahoma. I sense that he's going to be doing a lot of recruiting going forward.
I will say this. Right now, Max Anderson currently holds crystal ball to Michigan. I don't think that sticks because Michigan just landed Andrew Sprague, but I will say this.
Killing it.
I know Michael Hawkins has been recruiting guys to Oklahoma for a while because I just did an interview with somebody last night who accidentally slipped up with the Michael Hawkins commitment. So I had to push that interview till Monday to be released because, I can't put that out on yesterday when I wanted to. So
I'm wondering about Stacey Gage now too. He's one that I'm really curious about.
So the running back position's really, I think, gotten interesting now that James Peoples is not a take because James Peoples was a top 100 guy. So I'm kind of wondering, does Jarrett Gibson potentially get that offer since he has been pretty much advocating on social media to get that offer from DeMarco Murray? But also, what does it look like with some of these new offers that Oklahoma's gotten?
Trying to figure out how to say this. The running back room is probably our deepest. Let me just put it that way. We have a substantial amount of running backs, not only in the room today, but on the recruiting trail. I mean, right now it's looking like we're going to take, 3 running backs? I mean, I could see us taking 4. I think it would make sense to take 4.
Which is probably why you lost a guy like Caden Knighton in 2025.
Which makes sense, yeah, because that means at a certain point you got to recognize that unless you're an elite 5-star running back, you might not take nobody's position in this year's class. I mean, Gage, I think Stacey Gage can be special. In watching him play, not only at running back, he can catch. I think that he has some special tools. Then adding Caden Durham, who's fast. So you get yourself another basically Gavin Sawchuk coming in there. And then even looking at the players we have on roster with like Braylon Colgrove, the PWO that we got that had knee surgery back in like September. And then he ran like a 10-4-1 or 4-2 40, like a 100. He ate on that. And I remember he shot it to me when it happened. I'm just like, my boy, that is 10-4-1 is what he was. 22 weeks after surgery, he ran a 10-4-1 in track.
Yeah, and
Bananas.
there's a comment down here talking about Nathaniel Frazier. That's going to be the running back from Mitre Day. So, I mean, it would be a great take for Oklahoma, but I'm going to be honest. Anytime Oklahoma's in a battle with USC and Oregon for a Mitre Day kid, I am not betting any dollars on it because there's going to be another team that really gets into Mitre Day, and it's going to be Colorado. So I don't think getting a kid like that is going to necessarily be as easy of a take as it is for Oklahoma to go out there and get a Caden Durham, a Stacey Gage, an Xavier Robinson, guys like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
Right.
shoot, I think you have a better chance at landing Jarrett Gibson than you do Nathaniel Frazier.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And honestly, I wish we would have went ahead and went after Jared Gibson just to take him away from Texas. That would have been nice.
I think you
But
still could. I really do.
we
I mean,
won't.
the
We
kid
won't.
seems to want the offer bad enough.
We give him the offer, he's probably going to come here. I think that's the reason why they're holding off on it because they don't want anybody to fully commit yet. But to me, it's like, why not? Just go ahead and do it. Like, I totally get it, but go ahead. Take a
Yeah,
bigger
because can
class
you
of running
imagine
backs.
how like annoying Sooner Nation would be to Texas fans if we landed their 5-star running back that they wanted, that they were crystal balled to land from Steve Wiltfong?
I'm just saying. Just yeah, right, exactly. That would be man, people would be pissed. I want it. There's a level of petty in me that exists that I don't let come out very often. But in this circumstance, this is that one moment where I would not mind being super petty. I just wouldn't want to lose out on any of the other running backs. Like I really like Caden Durham. I think that he's going to be very special running back. Of course, Xavier Robinson Zay is one that I want because I like his size and stature, and I think that he can be special with the right coaching. And I think DeMarco Murray can do it. And so we have a lot of offers and potentials that are crystal ball to us. I'm ready for these floodgates to open up. Let me just put it like that.
All right, so Chicken, thank you for the $2 because this is going to go towards Caitlin and I's new house that we actually just signed a contract on. So as I said in the beginning of the video, you guys are for a while going to see a different background. It's probably going to change up every little bit because I'm going to be moving out of this house in a month. So, but yes, no, thank you for the $2. Now, the NIL bill. I have not had a chance to read this. Jay did send it to me the other day. I just have not had a chance to sit down and read it. So Jay is going to be the guy that could be able to talk about this one.
Yeah, we talked about this on my live last week that you weren't able to make it out to. Me and Jason went down and went through all of it. And so Chicken was kind of wanting to get all of y'all's opinions on it. We're going to definitely talk about it on next week on the SEC Connect with Ty. I want to get Ty's opinion and thoughts on it also. But the bigger thing with it is that the bill basically gives Oklahoma State, Tulsa, and then every other school outside of that that's non-D1. It basically shields them from the NCAA to where they can just ignore any complaints or any type of, I guess you could say, potential punishment or consequences from the NCAA around NIL. And then it also allows the collectives to be active with pursuing players and the schools helping these collectives provide these deals to the players or whatnot. And so in my mind, that's really a pay for play setup. That's really what it is. It's just going like, you know what, we're going to let boosters pay the players if you're allowing the collectives to not have really any quote unquote regulation, even though there are rules, but more so saying, hey, we're going to help these kids get these NIL deals. And so my thoughts behind it and what I wanted to get your thoughts on, PG, is with this bill being similar to the one they have in California, Texas, and the way the NCAA is losing more and more power, does this really balance the scales for Oklahoma in the NIL game with other schools, or do you think this really doesn't make any difference? Because me personally,
See, I really
think
don't think it
does
makes any
keep them
difference
balanced.
because
Okay.
if you do, I think really you're only seeing a couple schools, I think really just pay for players. And
Yes.
we're not going to sit out here and outs to these schools because I would like to stay in good cadence with these schools, but you guys know the schools I'm talking about. I think there's only a couple of them that are just straight up paying the players to come to their schools. NIL, like, Jackson Arnold said it perfectly. when it comes to NIL, he knew he was going to get an NIL deal, whether he went to Notre Dame, whether he went to Oklahoma. And David Stone is the same way. He knows whether he goes to Michigan State, Miami, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Alabama, wherever he goes, he will get an NIL deal because he is a 5-star top 10 player in the country. Now, it might not be on the level of Jackson Arnold, but he's going to get deals. And I think,
Right.
a lot of people forget that. And I think so many people want to just say, well, this recruiting battle because we lost came down to NIL when it's not necessarily the truth. Because, yeah, Texas is openly saying we're going to pay our offensive linemen $50K a year, but Oklahoma is openly paying their players $50,000 a year to be on the team. You can be a walk-on, a PWO, it doesn't matter. Which honestly, for a walk-on or a PWO, that's great because now they have a way to pay for school. They have a way to actually live, but still play the sport that they love and play it for the team that they've absolutely wanted to play for their whole life. So I don't think the NIL bill really changes anything. The one thing I have wanted to see change around NIL, and I think a thing that would go really well for the NCAA is for the NCAA to pay attorneys to be at the mercy of these players when they have an NIL deal and a contract that's going to be in place. Because it doesn't matter. If I send my kid off, I'm not an attorney. You're not an attorney. I don't know what in the world is in these contracts that's going to potentially hold my kid up and potentially hurt my kid. So if the NCAA really wants to put themselves out there in good cadence with these kids, they need to be able to give these kids attorneys that these kids can use free of charge. Or maybe if you're making a pretty big NIL deal, pretty significant deal, maybe you're getting that attorney gets an upfront fee or something like that. But someone that these resources for these kids that are, going to be able to help them, not, work against them. So.
Right. And honestly, with that's happening today. We'll say this one that is happening today. Actually, talking to our guy Chris over the Horns Down podcast, he's done that and helped read over language of contracts for players before. Like he's been brought in to assist with some of that stuff, and I think that's going to be a great world for him to get into because he'd be a great mind to help with that. But the other thing with that is that this deal is gonna this NIL bill is gonna require like a financial literacy classes and contract classes for these students that do engage in NIL deals. It's gonna require them, and then it's also gonna allow for the staff and stuff to be able to assist with I think everything behind the scenes. And so to me, I've said this numerous times, so everybody that's listened here that's been on my show, you probably gonna hear me repeat this constantly. But that's the one thing that's key to me is if you're a leader of men, you claim to be a leader of men. This is something they tell us. We don't call them that. They tell us this. That to me is your responsibility as a man leading men is teaching them that. The parents are going to teach as well, but some parents are not versed or like you said, we're not attorneys. So I know the resources of where to go. And so they need to be able to and be willing to help with vetting and providing sources and people that are trusted advisors to be able to help with those situations. So you're spot on, PG. I'm hardcore on that. That to me tells me the most about and tells me just how trustworthy a staff, a coach can be if they're willing to make sure that they take care of that portion of these players and provide them with that specific resource. And so I think the bill overall does level the playing field in some capacities, but just like you said, some schools are going to outspend others no matter what we do. And just because they outspend you doesn't mean they're going to outwin you. And we've seen that. We see that on the professional level, and you're going to see that at the collegiate level as well. Some are going to outspend others. Whoop-de-doo. Guess what? That doesn't mean that they're going to outcoach us. And we've watched teams outspend others and still not be able to beat anybody. Just remember, your richest schools are basically Texas and Texas A&M, and what have they done in the last 25 years? I mean, Texas has a title and a second championship visit, just like us. We've had multiple championship visits, and so yeah, we know where the money's at. The coaching is still what's most important, and kids are following coaching. They're not following the money like you think they are.
Yes, no, I agree with you, and really, honestly, I think we talk about so often Texas and Texas A&M being the richest schools, but talking about rich or schools that have a lot of rich people around them, USC, they have a great NIL program as it is. If they could just fine tune a couple things with it, they really could just, they could step into that tier 1 of college football teams because We've already seen it with some of the deals that Caleb Williams has been able to get, some of the deals that they've been able to get for their women's basketball team and teams like that.
Yeah.
USC could be on the rise if they could get it together.
Their problem is that there's just so much to do in California. Like until they can get the alumni base to actually care, that's where the struggle is for most schools. It's more so to do with finding an alumni base that actually cares about football and less about the school. Most of their alumni base really care about the school because USC is a very good school. They're a very good school and they're very well funded because they've got alum that care and they drop money in there. I mean, hell, Dr. Dre paid a whole bunch of money to go into their arts programs and stuff. So they do that. They have those resources. And like you said, they have a really good collective. And now that they care about football, you're going to see them do some special stuff, just like Miami. It's going to take Miami a couple years to make sure that Cristobal is the right coach. He's a great recruiter. The question is can he actually coach the talent that he's bringing in? And Ruiz is going to do everything he can to bring in the best players at that school because he loves his school being in the spotlight athletically on top of academically. The school don't care about athletics. They only care about academics. And having a booster like Ruiz who cares, a billionaire being able to put money into the school, that to me is like, boom, there you go. You got an opportunity. So let's see if we have that. Oklahoma has that as well. Y'all just don't know it. I think that's the one thing that's always impressed me about Oklahoma setup. And honestly, the two teams that I like, Oklahoma and Tennessee, the two things that I've really appreciated about them, and honestly, Alabama at this point with Nick Saban, they're kind of at this point too. They don't. You know that they have money. But you don't really hear about it. And when they spend in specific spots because that's what they want to spend on. They don't just spend frivolously just to say they can. They're very meticulous and they're very pointed at where they spend their money, and that's something I truly appreciate. Like Tennessee's one of the richer schools in the country as well. Their alumni base will drop bread at that school all the time, and they purposely focus on where they're going to spend their money. Now, granted, they did a terrible job initially at finding coaches, but they finally found an AD that they know can do some things. The one from UCF, they brought him over. He fired the other coach and brought in his coach from UCF, which is Josh Heupel, former Sooner quarterback. And so because of that, now you're seeing them make those steps forward. And Oklahoma does it in a similar way. We've got a great AD. Castiglione is fantastic. He's one of the best in the country. And OU has always done a really good job of bringing in coaches and maintaining success. And I expect that same thing out of Venables, which is good. And so we're getting the money. It's coming in. We're one of the richer schools revenue-wise. We just don't spend money just to spend money. Like we threw bags. Like I'm gonna tell you, we threw bags at David Hicks, and it was just one of those situations where you just don't win. You can't win all of them. We can offer every player $100 million, and sometimes a player would be like, I'd rather take 85 and go to this school, only because of a relationship with the coach or a relationship with the family member, etc., so on and so forth. So there's so many more factors than money in winning some of these recruits. So you want to, like I said, you want a talent like Hicks, and you hope that you can win a talent like Hicks. But it's for him, A&M has sent a lot of defensive linemen to the NFL. Can't really argue that, right? Like, how do you?
Yeah, but Nick Williams ain't
argue
there anymore to
against
help do it.
I mean, Nick was just a recruiting coordinator. He did a really good job of what he did, but Elijah, E-Rob, is the coach that everyone loves. That's the only reason why they have stability on the defensive line today, why none of those guys is left. Elijah Robinson is a fantastic coach. Larry Johnson, the godfather up at Ohio State's one that you should be terrified of. And anybody that Nick Saban hires at Alabama, obviously, is going to be one that you should be afraid of. Same thing with Georgia. And Michigan. Michigan churns out defensive linemen, too. So
and offensive linemen.
Bates is becoming that. Yeah, Bates is getting there. Bates is getting there. That his clout that he built at Clemson is following here now. And you're going to start seeing those bigger players come here because even though the best defensive lineman we've had in the last 15 years was Gerald McCoy. Before that was Tommy Harris. We don't have a bunch of them. We've had some good ones. We just haven't had a bunch of them. And A&M churns them out. Myles Garrett is wrecking the NFL, and they're churning out defensive linemen to the NFL. So, because of that, we just got to give Ty Bates some time. He's going to get those Clemson boys. I mean, he had like 4 defensive linemen drafted in I think that 3 of them was drafted in the first round and 4 of them total in the first 3 rounds. Like, that's absurd to get basically your starting defensive line in the NFL in a 3-round span. Bananas. We'll get that here. We'll have that, so don't stress. I think David Stone, is in the background recruiting players to come to Oklahoma, and he's just having fun teasing the hell out of us. And whenever they let him, he will commit.
I'll tell you this. I know for a fact Stone has been recruiting to Oklahoma. So that's all. That's all I'll say there. That's all I'll say there.
I know he is. I know that he is definitely telling folks, you got to come here with me. Come join me at Oklahoma. Join me at Oklahoma.
There's a couple questions I want to get to here in the chat. But I want to start with this one because you were talking about Tennessee and NIL money. And there's a specific school in Tennessee that if they could get their NIL money together, if they could get boosters to care about their football program, they could be on the up and up. And that school actually just got a commitment from a 4-star running back, top 150 player in the country in 2025, Caden Knighton, right here out of Wynnewood, Oklahoma. But then today, we also see Zadavian Sims drop his top 10. And not only do we see, well, Michigan State in there, who's causing Oklahoma some problems or causing Sooner fans some worries, you see Vanderbilt there. What are your thoughts on Vanderbilt? Because it seems like they really want to try to get in a lot of these recruiting races, and they just took a player from Oklahoma that I really think could be a top 100 player by the end of the 2025 cycle.
I'll say this. I'm happy that Caden Knighton went ahead and did his commitment to Vandy. Go ahead and show that, you feel like you're committed to a spot. Vanderbilt's a fantastic school. Overall, I don't think the commitment sticks. And I say that because as he flies up those charts and as schools start to recognize him, he's going to get offers from some better schools, from some better performing schools on the football field. And
it's important to note he's only got 7 right now.
Right, exactly. And that's a key point. He's only got 7. If we had offered him, he would have committed that day. Period. But the one thing that I don't do, and I've learned my lesson on, even though there are examples of, occasional misses, I don't question DeMarco Murray. I've learned my lesson on that. I think he looks for particular types of running backs and particular types of players to come here for him to coach. And so I don't argue with it.
Caden Knighton had the offer from Oklahoma, but if you go and watch the interview, he specifically said he really wants to just go out of state. He doesn't really want to continue to be in Oklahoma. He wants to see what else is out there and what else is available. And by the way, going to Tennessee, I mean, you couldn't have picked a prettier state.
I mean, he went to Nashville. So, yeah, he been a fantastic city to go to. I mean, I love Nashville. Yeah. Like, if there's a city that I'm going to move to, they're on my list of cities I would love to move to. The city is so much fun, and he's going to have a blast. The campus at Vanderbilt, I stayed on that campus a couple years ago when I went out there. I went to a Vols game, and then I went to a Titans game on that Sunday. So I did a Saturday-Sunday deal. Went to Duval's Penn game, Josh Heupel's first year, and then I went to a Titans game and I watched Kyler Murray destroy the Titans in the first game of the season for the Cardinals, which was so much fun. But outside of that, it's a great city to be in. And so, yeah, as you quoted your interview with him, he wants to move out of state, but I think that they could have reeled him in. They could have if they, they really put in the effort. But at the same time, I don't see the Vanderbilt commitment sticking. I think somebody's going to try to snatch him up, especially as he keeps moving up the charts. He's talented, too talented to kind of be at Vanderbilt, unless he just wants to go there, get the education, and thinks that he can shine enough to go pro. Because remember this, we can clown as much as we want to on teams like Vanderbilt and Kansas and stuff like that. They still put people in the NFL.
Maybe and they're on the come up, both of those programs.
But the NFL will find you. If you're talented and you show it, they will find you. Regardless of how bad your team is, you'll be found. Go look at the schools that a lot of these NFL players go to. There are a lot of them from your college football playoff teams and that, but there's a lot of small schools in there too. That's especially the stuff that like they do, that Belichick does at the Patriots. They're going to find the talent. There's enough scouts out there to say, hey, go look at this dude, go watch his film, and that you will do that. So that he'll be fine if his goal is to go pro. But, I mean, I'm happy for him. I like for us to keep as much 4 and 5-star talent in house, but I know that that's not something that's a guarantee. There was somebody else asked a question. Yeah, Mo Better Sooners asked it about O-line. Pop that one up real quick. Let me address that one real quick too.
Please
And
do.
PG,
Please do.
And PG, I know you're gonna hop in on me after this. Look, I understand that everybody likes the stars and love the beauty of how they look or whatnot because it makes our rating looks good when we go up the charts. Blah blah blah. It's beautiful, right? O-line U is O-line U for a reason. It don't matter what your stars are. If Beatonbow thinks that you got an opportunity and he gets you here, he's going to send you to the pros. He had the most offensive linemen in the playoffs this year, and he got the best lineman out there paid. His lineman this past offseason got 52.5 million dollars in contracts signed. Like his players combining guaranteed money there, he's gonna get them. He's gonna get them. Remember, Creed Humphreys was a 3-star. So you're not always gonna land the big 5-star name. More so because those stars are typically rated based upon what schools are interested in them on top of the talent. Like some players that should be higher rated aren't. Some players that are higher rated probably shouldn't be. And you'll learn that as they hit the field. That's why not all 5-stars make it, not all 4-stars make it. You can tell. But I trust Beatonbow on this one because he's done nothing but make Oklahoma O-line U, and it's so trustworthy. Now, probably the reason why we're not landing a lot of those 5-stars is that we're not heavily pursuing them. We're really not. And Beatonbow's been here for a bit, so we know who he's pursuing, who he's going out. They're just not. He knows what fits what they're trying to do, and especially with now Levy's new offense, he may have done a little bit of shifting, but I promise you're gonna see a bunch of dudes go to the pros from our offensive line because that's just what he does. Tyler Guyton's going first round. I'm just gonna say that next year he'll be a first-round draft pick.
Am I able to go now?
That's how talented he is. he'll be a first-round pick next year.
So, when did Bill Beatonbow get here? Do we know that off the top of our heads? I don't.
I'll look it up real quick for you though.
Okay. Let's just say he got here in 2017. 2017, Oklahoma landed Tyrese Robinson.
13.
Number 103 ranked player, number 8 offensive guard in that class. In 2018, of course, he landed Bray Walker, the 5-star out of Oklahoma City. Unfortunately, that situation never worked, right? Bray Walker didn't work out. That kind of backs up the conversation that not all 5-stars are guaranteed to be hits. In 2020, he went out there and landed not 1, but 2 top 100 players and the number 1 offensive guard and the number 2 offensive guard in that class. Nate Anderson out of Frisco, Texas, and Andrew Rame out of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. He also got Anton Harrison in that class, who's going to be a first-round guy, maybe even a top 15 pick in this class.
Yeah, he's moving up the charts fast.
And, in 2021, he got Savion Byrd, a number 64 overall player in the class, and number 4 player at his position on the offensive line. And I really could just continue. Yeah, not all those guys are 5-stars. It's about being able to go out there and find the hidden gems, find the talent. Because like I just pointed out with Bray Walker, not all 5-stars pan out. Now, Texas, they hit on those 5-stars. But guess what? Those guys were from Texas. And guess what? Texas was probably a school that they really desired to play for. And so if you're a kid from Texas and you want to go play for Texas, you're probably not going to pick Oklahoma. So Devon Campbell and those guys that Oklahoma lost in, I believe it was 2022, everybody needs to get over that whole situation. Everybody needs to get over it. Bill Beatonbow, he does just fine. Proven by Orlando Brown and a lot of these guys in the NFL being some of the highest paid offensive linemen ever. There's nothing to worry about. I don't know why Oklahoma fans have to worry about it. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I get it. 5-stars, they sound sexy, but trust me, they don't look as sexy as you think on the field.
Look, we 24/7 put out a chart of NFL of college football teams with the most NFL draft picks since 2000. Oklahoma's number 9 at 113 players. Michigan. Number 1 was Ohio State. You had Alabama. I'm going to make a short on this probably once we get off of here. You got Ohio State, Alabama, LSU at 143, Georgia at 139, Florida at 128, Miami at 124, USC at 120, Florida State at 114, Oklahoma and Michigan at 113. We put players in the NFL. A lot of them. We put a lot of them. I actually made a short, too, on first-round picks that we had, and we put out a lot. You know what's funny, too, is we've put out more defensive players in first round than people would expect. Like Kenneth Murray was a first-round pick, and he was a 3-star.
Was
That's
Ronnie
the beauty
Perkins
of
a
it.
first-round pick, or was he a third?
Who?
Ronnie Perkins.
Ooh, that's a good question.
And then you had, who was the defensive
third.
lineman? There was Isaiah Thomas too. I can't remember what round he went in, but I know it wasn't late. And then he had Perion Winfrey. I mean, I could sit here and name you defensive line or defensive players all day long. Nick Benito.
Yeah,
I mean,
third, fourth, and now, that's more recently too. But my point is, so Beatonbo's been here since 2013, and he's been producing offensive linemen in NFL. That's the beauty of what he does.
This is a great take.
He knows how to find them.
Caden Green should have been a 5-star. He had that kind of talent. He just wasn't. He didn't show up to a lot of camps. That's what it ended up coming down to.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is that we find them and then we develop them. And it's the best part. Like I mentioned, that's why I said this at the beginning, kind of like as a disclaimer. Hopefully you all caught this, but I will repeat it. Some players' star rating is also based upon who's offering them and hunting them. Some of those star ratings go up because they recognize that certain eyes that are no talent are finding them. Caden Green moved up to 5-star status when we really started going after him, and when we got him, they moved him to 5-star. Should have been a 5-star from the beginning, but people started recognizing it. Surprisingly, PJ Adebayo actually ended up being a 5-star plus, which shocked me that he got all of that, even though I know he's that talented. But, defensive line, Oklahoma, people don't want to respect that part. But everybody that saw him said, no, he's a freak. Saw his brother. His brother ran like a 4.4 840 at 290 pounds. You're like, could you imagine a 290-pound person at 6 foot like 4 or 5 chasing you down, and they run a 4.4 840 and they're much faster than you? I'm terrified thinking about it. Like, I'm scared in my voice as we speak on someone that big. It's a bear. That's a bear chasing you. Just imagine a bear chasing you. And I know some of you may think that you would win a battle with a bear. You think that you would survive that battle. No, you're not Leonardo DiCaprio. I promise. That's not a fight. You don't want that smoke. And so getting certain players to move up the status because of the particular coach that is eyeballing them, that's what's key. And that tells you Oklahoma gets that. We're going to get them. We're going to get 5-star O-linemen for the most part. We'll probably get a ton of 4-stars. The ones that probably should be 5-stars are just not. And heck, they may actually move into 5-star status the last week of the rankings because we ended up landing them.
Okay. There's a question here I want to get to.
Okay.
I really hate that we have to get to this question again, but this is going to be something that I think we're going to have to talk about for the next year.
Recurrent thing.
Mobetta Sooner asked, what do you guys think it would take for BV to bench Gabriel? So my answer is it's not going to happen. Jackson Arnold, he looks really, really good. But you've also heard about how Dylan Gabriel has improved a lot. And Dylan Gabriel is a leader on this team. I don't think it would go over very well if Dylan Gabriel was benched and he's playing like he was last season. If at the minimum last season. Because I guess a lot of OU fans have amnesia because last year he only completed 62% of his passes. It wasn't the best he's ever had. The year before, the 3 games he played was at 68%. But he threw for 25 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, which some of those interceptions weren't on him per se. Dylan Gabriel had a really good season. If he would have been healthy the entire season, those statistics would look a lot better. So when people ask me, will Jackson Arnold start over Dylan Gabriel? Will he be benched? I don't think so. because I don't expect Dylan Gabriel to go out there and drop goose eggs. I don't expect him to have a worse season than he did last season. I expect Dylan Gabriel this season to throw anywhere between 3,200 to 3,500 yards, probably be in the 35 to 40 in the touchdown range, be under 10 interceptions, and he's probably going to have 3 to 500 rushing yards. Because now that we have depth at the quarterback position, because it looks like Davis Bevel is actually starting to come into himself a little bit and be a little bit better than last season, you have depth there. So you could be a little bit more free with your quarterback, where last season maybe they were a little afraid to run Gabriel. I don't think Venables is going to bench Gabriel. I think he's going to redshirt Arnold, and he's going to make sure he can get that extra year of eligibility. But Jay, what are your thoughts here? Because you know me, I've been an advocate that Dylan Gabriel is a great quarterback, and people do not need to be even having this conversation.
I think he's good, not great. I think he is enough to lead us with a top 50 defense. Let's put it like that. Having a bottom 20 defense doesn't help a quarterback like Dylan Gabriel because he's not a world beater, but he is good enough to throw for 3,000 yards. That's what you want. A quarterback that can do that and not turn the ball over, which he was really good at doing last year. Also, the other thing is and Mims mentioned this in his interview at the Combine, and I think at Oklahoma, they were asking him about the difference between playing for Lebby and the difference between Lebby and Coach Riley. And he made mention of this one thing that a lot of people did not catch, is that he talked about with Lebby's system, he felt like that kind of may help him prepare a little bit more for the NFL. Because in Lebby's system, there's more options for the receivers. The receivers can make their own choices. They can choose. They choose their the routes that they're going to run. And because of that, having a little bit more autonomy out there, it helps prepare you because the NFL, there's a lot of option routes. You do it based upon the settings of the defense. And the question is going to be, are you and your quarterback in sync and see the same thing based upon the settings of the players? So ask that, and I see your question, Mo Better. Yeah, I know. Don't get it wrong. It's more so a defense mechanism on ours. A lot of people ask the question about benching Gabriel. I don't think he gets benched this year. I think the only way he gets benched is he would have to throw like 4 interceptions in like back-to-back games. I don't see him.
And he's going to have to be constantly missing the wide receivers. Dylan Gabriel's going to have to look pretty bad, guys.
Timing has to be awful because statistically he puts up everything you need for a quarterback to be successful in college football. The problem that we had, like, for example, we were beating up on Tech. Like, we were up, 24 to 7 in that game. And unfortunately, our defense just could not hold it on. And that was more so a depth problem. We just didn't have enough bodies. Now we have that. We have a top 50 defense, top 70 defense, and we win. If we had top 70 defense last year, we win 8 to 9 games.
Well, and I think that's the point here. If Dylan Gabriel goes out there and just has a mediocre season, I think it's still important for the staff to leave Dylan Gabriel out there because here's what the fans, I think, don't understand. And Mo Betta, this isn't me coming for you. This is just, again, it's like Jay said, it's a defensive mechanism because I'm tired of having to, stand up for DG because fans expect this Heisman tier quarterback every single year when, that's just so rare. It really is. I mean, look at Ohio State. Like, they didn't win one with CJ Stroud. They probably should have. But, when it comes to Dylan Gabriel, if the student section's out there chanting for Jackson Arnold, if I'm Venables and Jeff Lebby and Dylan Gabriel is playing mediocre and playing, and you're still winning games and you're 6-0, I ain't giving them anything. I'm not giving them what they want because all of a sudden now you're going to create this narrative that when the fans request a change at quarterback, doesn't matter the coaching staff, Lincoln Riley, Jeff Lebby, doesn't matter. You're going to give it to them. And I think that's a terrible look. And so as long as DG's not out there just stinking it up, I think you're going to be fine. And Chris Johnson here, he said, missed a lot of easy passes in clutch situations. Yes, Dylan missed passes. But some of these were on the wide receivers just not being in the right spots, guys. It really is. Sometimes those wide receivers looked lost. And, you kind of talked about it, how, the Lincoln Riley system versus the Jeff Lebby system. The Jeff Lebby system is 10 times more complicated. Let me tell you how Lincoln Riley's system works. If you're a wide receiver, you run your route. And the quarterback gets 1 look, 2 look. If that second look ain't open, you run it. It's a fairly easy system. With Jeff Lebby's system, yes, these wide receivers in one play might have a couple different routes, or maybe they do something different with the route each time. And then the quarterback has to go through every single progression unless he just at that time feels like he has to run the ball.
Yeah,
It's a lot
it's a
different,
ratio.
a lot more
It's a
complicated than a
ratio.
Lincoln Riley offense. And I think a lot of people, they don't understand how the offenses work and how different of a system that is. I mean, go look at the quarterbacks that are in the NFL right now. Outside of Jalen Hurts, go look at Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield. They struggled their first year because they had to relearn how to go through the progressions. That you don't just look at 1 and 2 and run. See, Cole, I'll completely disagree with you. We're not going to witness another Spencer Rattler because here's the other thing. Jackson Arnold is not on the level of Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams was also generational talent. Spencer Rattler is probably an NFL quarterback. DG is consistent. He is the number one. So, yeah, Cole, listen, the drops, the misses sometimes on those wide receivers, it was on them. I'm not going to put all of that on Dylan Gabriel. Dylan had his fair share, but I'm not going to put it all.
There's blame to go around.
Yeah, but I'm not going to put it all on Dylan Gabriel like some people want.
Yeah. And I think to add to what you said, Joel Klatt did a really good job of breaking it down. Former college and NFL quarterback. He pointed out the difference in the offenses, and he really talked about how in the Josh Heupel, Jeff Lebby type, and Art Briles type offenses is that it's a ratio game. You look at your ratios, and it's based upon how many defenders on one side or defenders in certain places, and the quarterback makes a decision on that, and the receivers also get the option on their route. And so there's a lot of miscues. There was. Dylan missed some passes, and there was also miscues on the wide receiver. It's a combination. So we're not trying to say that Dylan Gabriel is excused from anything. It's just I want to put the perspective, and I try to take a pensive approach with everything I say, is to look at the perspective piece of there is room for putting blame in multiple places. And the unfortunate thing is unless you're in the huddle and you know what the play was and what everybody was supposed to do, we'll never know whose fault it was. That's what makes the complexity of a Lebby offense really hard to really point stuff out and place blame. We don't know who was supposed to do what because there was so many options and ideas that could have gone through that. There's so many different variables in this, and it's unfortunate, but I like to try to put that out there, remind everybody. Dylan Gabriel was dropping some dimes, though. I dropped a short. You can go to my page. I drop a whole bunch of shorts. I try to drop more shorts on the players, highlights, and stuff that they've done, just so you can see what they did. I did one with him and just Mims. Oh, my God. He was dropping some dimes to Mims. And there was a lot of plays where they were butt naked open, too, and he was hitting them spot on. It was just chef's kiss. Hey, blood. Hey, what's good, man? Yeah, I get my shirts on my journeys everywhere I go. I have a tendency of finding them. I have friends that sends me links and tells me. I can't remember where this McDowell shirt came from. I have another Coming to America one, too. I have a Soul Glow one. So if you watch my channel, I'm usually in a random T-shirt with every video, and that's now become a talking point. I'm going to drop a video probably on – I'm going to create a personal YouTube, basically me in real life, and just kind of go through some of the shirts that I have in my collection so y'all can laugh at all the craziness that I have. But I have a ton of crazy T-shirts that I just adore and love. So – all right, PG, I'm gonna let you go back to some questions. We're about an hour in, man. It's
I mean, actually, I'm about to probably wrap this puppy up because I'm gonna go watch Super Mario Bros, which I know you got to see last night. I know it's not sports related, but I heard it's a pretty good movie. So
my son went and saw it. It's definitely a kids movie. It was fun. It felt like they've got a good direction. I just hope that they follow that good formula because it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was good enough for parents while at the same time really focused on kids. I had a blast.
Yeah, well, I got to watch that, and then I'm going to come home tonight and play some Metroid Prime Remastered. So I finally found me a copy at a GameStop because if you guys know me, I like hard copies. I'm not a digital person, so I want to actually have the game if you can get it physical. So Finally found that, so I'll probably come home and play that tonight. But one last question before we hop out. Jordan asked, does Texas have a 24 QB? Technically, yes. They have a guy from Cypress, Texas. He's a 4-star quarterback. It's Trey Owens. It's a guy that has always wanted to play for the University of Texas, so it was a pretty easy grab for them. Honestly, I don't expect Texas to go out there and get a top-tier quarterback this class because they've got Malik Murphy, you've got Quinn Ewers, you've got Arch Manning, and they've got other guys back there as well. So Texas is not hurting at the quarterback position. The question is, what's Texas going to do at the quarterback position? Does Malik Murphy transfer? Does Quinn Ewers go to the draft after this year? What does that quarterback position look like for them? And I think we'll have a better understanding probably after spring. We'll see whether Malik Murphy decides to hit the portal or not. And if he does, I know you guys are OU fans. He's not coming to Oklahoma, but I would be curious to see where he lands because that's a guy I think that could shake up college football wherever he decides to go because Ohio State needs a quarterback. Alabama needs a quarterback. Florida needs a quarterback. So there are some options out there for a guy like him. But if you guys haven't already, go ahead, hit that like and the subscribe button. Listen, guys, I'm having to pay for a new house for my fiance because she decided we need a new house. So I need you guys to hit that like and the subscribe button. And I need you guys to watch my videos because it was an expensive purchase, but I think it's one that is well worth it. Jay, where can the people find you at?
Hey, you know where to find me on YouTube at Unfair Sports. Just search for me. I'm always there. Real quick, wanted to point one thing out about the offensive line as we were talking about that. Here's 3 NFL offensive linemen that Beaton Bow had recruited as the primary. You've got Orlando Brown, Cody Ford, as well as Ben Powers. All 3 of them just recently got paid, and all 3 of them were 3-star prospects. That tells you development in coaching, baby. That is beautiful.
It is
See
beautiful.
you on the other side.
All right. Thank you all for hopping on. Hey, if you guys haven't already, go over and check out the Caden Knighton interview. We got a Bennett Warren interview coming on Monday. We've also put out a couple different videos as well. So head on over, check out a couple of those other videos for me. Let me know what y'all think. Peace.
Peace.